Okay, we are live, everybody, and I don't have the moment signed right now. We will go straight ahead and start this. And I already see that there are a lot of people from different parts of the world. At least there's someone from North Carolina with a cup of coffee, probably morning coffee. And I have to say good morning to the States and good afternoon to Europe and good evening to Asia and other parts of the world. So this is actually a pretty good time to have this live stream because it's possible for, not sure about the Australians, what time it is in Sydney or Melbourne at the time right now. But welcome, Robin, and how are you today?
I am good, Peter. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very glad to be here.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Is always like to talk to you because you always have a happy face and a good spirit, which is I try. That's good. That's good because when I'm talking to the camera, I'm usually a bit not that smiley looking, but now when I'm talking to you, you know, your smile and good spirit kind of like comes through my camera to my face. So this is always nice. But before we go into the Q&A and start talking about photography and maybe gear, I want to ask you that you've had a really roller coaster year. It started with not being a visionary and lockdowns and all that, and all of a sudden everything has changed for the better. And how do you feel now?
I think the year has been very strange and it has passed by very fast. Do you remember that we had a stream together with Rob Track, with Emily, with Jimmy Chang in January, right? I thought it was just like I thought it was just like 3 weeks ago, and now it's already like 4 months. It's crazy. And you know what? Like a lot of things have happened here. A lot of good things, a lot of bad things. Malaysia had a lockdown in January. I think it lasted about 2 months. It was partially eased in March. So in that 2 months, I was stuck at home. I had 0 photography jobs, almost 0 income, no money coming in. I couldn't go out. I couldn't do my shutter therapy. I couldn't do street shooting. And even the videos, if you guys watch my videos from January, February, and even in March, most of them were filmed in my bedroom, this room. It was quite sad, right? I can't go out. I can't take any new photos. So it was also very difficult to find topics to talk about and make new videos every week. It has become a big challenge. But I think sometime in March, things turned around a little bit. It got a little bit better. The lockdown was partially eased, so we can go out again. We can move about. I can go out with my camera and take photographs without worrying about the police, coming and catch me and give me a hefty fine. I can film my video outdoor again. I can do shutter therapy, and some of the photography jobs start to come back, so I get a little bit of money coming in. So things get a little bit better. And I guess the biggest news, as what Peter has just mentioned earlier, was that the local distributor for Olympus products had contacted me and they asked me to rejoin the Olympus Visionary program. To me, that's a huge deal because if you know me, you know that I really do care about the Olympus brand and the community. I have been blogging, writing articles about Olympus, shooting with Olympus, and more recently doing video content for Olympus for more than 10 years. It has become a huge part of my life. So being asked to continue to do what I love and being recognized for that, I think it does boost my morale and it does give me a little bit more motivation to continue to do what I do. Having said that, there are a few more good news that I would like to share. I haven't announced this anywhere, but for you, Peter, because you're so special, so I make this announcement here. I have got myself the EM1 Mark III.
All right.
Finally, cool. Yeah. So this is
Great.
mine. I haven't turned it on yet. I haven't put in a battery or anything. It's fresh out of the box. So I will be making more videos with this camera. So yeah, finally I got the EM1 Mark III. So I'm very, very happy and very excited to be here. I think from now on, things are starting to return to normal in Malaysia. So I get to shoot again. So that's a huge, huge plus. Yeah, so looking forward to shoot more photographs and share more with the community and yeah, hopefully engage more with everyone.
That sounds really great. And you've been doing really well with your YouTube channel, and I really I was happy to see the Olympus Air video that really took off. That's totally awesome, and it's something we talked before we started. That there you have it. That's cool. It's a strange camera, but actually, like you had in the topic that it came too early. Maybe it's another take on maybe they have the Air 2 someday, because I think it's a very interesting concept. And like we talked before this stream, that I also tried to get one, but first of all, buying one they're quite expensive still, and getting them from the States would cost double the price of the
That's
300
true.
to 400, and so it's quite expensive. And then getting the app might also be a problem. But I'm glad that you could test it and see how it works. But coming to these strange or peculiar products, then there was a interview in, I think it was the 4/3 day, that was just a few days ago, and Olympus said that they are launching a total new set of products. And do you think that has something to do with photography, or are they talking about surveillance cams, for example? Do you have any educated guess?
So first of all, just to be clear to everyone, I don't have any official information directly from OM Digital Solutions. So everything that I'm saying here is from my own opinion, and I don't really represent them at this moment, right? Educated guess, as what Peter said. I don't think it's surveillance cam, but I think it will probably still be something to do with consumer products. I don't know, maybe a new line of lens or a different kind of camera. I don't know. But I think the first priority, now that they've taken over the Olympus brand, they will try their best to win back the loyal customers, the existing Olympus OMD and pen users. I think that should be the main focus. So whatever the new product is will have to be aimed towards this current ecosystem.
Now that could be. I was more thinking about that, and also a bit hoping that they would make these cinema lenses for Micro Four Thirds. That could be a totally new product. Or if they're making a new camera, is that a video-centric? I don't know.
Video-centric. Yeah, that will be a good strategy, right? To make it more
that could be.
video-centric.
And the same thing, I have no special information about this, just speculating, so that nobody doesn't take this as a fact that what they're going to do. I would also say that it could be surveillance cams. That's also a possibility, because that's what they've been talking before the actual company was formed. It was, I think, last fall they spoke that this could be a possibility, and of course it can be, because and I don't really see any other total new product lineup that it could be a camera, unless they've invented something that doesn't exist. That would be totally cool, of course. It's always a possibility, because Olympus has had the history making things as the first camera company in other stuffs too.
True.
And, so it's going to be interesting anyways. And what's rumored also, and it's also public knowledge, that the 8 to 25mm f4 is maybe coming this year, and I hope it comes soon, because that's something that probably the most questions that I get asked is when that lens is coming. and I'm waiting.
When that lens comes, I will buy it on the spot. I will pre-order that lens. I will get it. I don't have the 714 at the moment, and I don't have anything wider than 12. So if I need, say, 918 or 714, I will borrow from Olympus. It's very bad. But why I don't want the 714 is because, first of all, I can't attach filter on it, right? It's the bulbous.
Well, you can, but you know how big those are and expensive.
Yes,
it's a huge, bulky thing. It's about this size of my head when you have the.
I mean, don't get me wrong. The 714 is an amazing lens. The sharpness is incredible. Even f2.8, you can get amazing results. And every shot that I take with the lens is just fantastic. But it's 7 to 14, so it's stuck at wide angle. Even at 14, it was really wide. So having the 8, you sacrifice 1 mil from 7 to 8, but it extends all the way to 25. Now, there is something different, because at 25, it's no longer a wide angle. It's actually, it's medium normal perspective, right? It's 50 mm equivalent. So I will bring that lens, and I can do everything with that one lens. It's amazing. Yeah. I can see myself using that lens in a lot of situations.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting lens, and most likely it's going to be really nice and small package too, because it's f4. That's which I actually like. Some people would prefer 2.8, but that would be a huge lens, and I don't think that's going to be, because I also like the 12 to 45, which is f4 lens. It's one of my favorites. Actually, I like it more than that. But I don't have it yet on my buy one. But you know, with the current situation, I have a bit lowered the things that I want, because you know we don't know when we can get proper work again.
Yes.
So that's why I don't have it. I did have it last fall, but then I had to return the stuff when the shift came up. But I will start getting it back, and now I also have the EM1 Mark III, which is not my own, but it's from OMDS, and that's actually what I'm using right now here when I'm filming. And but I still use the EM1 Mark II as my everyday camera. I kind of like it. There aren't too many things in the EM1 Mark III that I actually need.
Yes.
But it is, in some ways, it's better with the video, because the phase priority AF is so much better. That's why I like to use it in video too, and also been playing around with the raw video, which is really interesting concept also. But not something that I will use every day, and especially not for the YouTube videos, because the file sizes are huge.
It's crazy, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and then there is one fault that is a bit annoying. It doesn't correct the lens faults or anything. There is no lens correction, so you can see everything. But in a way, it is actually you can realize how much the software actually corrects the lenses.
Yes.
It can be done, of course, in post, but of course it's another.
There's a lot of work. Yeah,
it is.
I can imagine.
But otherwise, it's an interesting concept to have, and I think it's a good thing that they have it. So, what did you think about the rumor that Olympus would join LMount, which is now, of course, not going to happen, as they said? But I made a video and a speculation about it, and if they did, I think that would be the best mount if they did. But they won't. So don't take me wrong.
I think.
What do you think? Would that be a good move if they did? Not talking about should they or not, but if they did, would that be the right mount?
As a photographer, I would like Olympus. I'm speaking from myself, right? For myself as a photographer, I would love to see a full frame system from Olympus, because Olympus, much like Nikon and Canon, are actually true camera makers. They have been making cameras for the past 100 years, right? And they have the know-how. They truly understand photographers, or how to make a camera that feels right in hand, how to make a camera that's truly reliable and just get results. So I believe Olympus is in the same league or the same category as Canon and Nikon in camera making technology or expertise. So full frame is sort of like a standard now that a lot of people are using, professionals are using. I'm not saying that you must use full frame to get professional results. I don't. So I would love Olympus to explore that option. But however, from the way that they designed the cameras from day one, we're talking about from 4/3, right? Even before the OMD or pen came out, and then they moved on to micro 4/3 pen, and then they come out with the OMD cameras. Olympus has always been very firm, and they have always been very strict in telling the world that no, we are not doing full frame. And they have been always very consistent. I think that it is that consistency that I can respect. They stay true to their vision. They stay true to the core of their beliefs of what they want to do with the cameras. Now, there are, of course, compromises. I'm not saying that, micro four thirds is the best system in the world. Micro four thirds is better than full frame. I never said that. A lot of people come and attack me and say, wow, Robin is anti-full frame. My goodness, please stop that. I'm not against full frame. Like, seriously, I bought a Canon 5D Classic in January, right? I still love I still have the camera. I love it. I love full frame. I love all cameras. I am not against any camera out there. I'm just saying that Olympus chose to stay on this micro four thirds system. and they chose to be truly dedicated and fully committed to the system. It is unfortunate that they couldn't survive, and that the pandemic hit, the COVID-19 came, and then they have to exit the business, and it was carved out by JIP. But JIP is carrying on that tradition, that belief, that DNA, that Olympus MKIII's, philosophy of creating something truly small, truly portable. And I think only Micro Four Thirds can give you that best balance in terms of small size camera, small size lenses, and yet giving you fantastic quality with amazing image stabilization. And to me, the image quality is more than good enough. Yes, if you want to compare, full frame will give you better low light performance. Medium format or large format will give you even more megapixels or tonality or depth of field. All this will never end. But to me, Micro Four Thirds, even my EM5 Mark III, with a simple pancake lens or prime lens, I'm already very, very, very happy with it for my street photography, for my wedding photography, for my jobs. So, as much as I want Olympus to go full frame, but I also want them to truly focus and make an OMD camera that all of us can truly appreciate and love. I think that's the priority for now. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree, even though I'm not really sure that I would use the Olympus full frame camera. Of course, I would test it, but I'm really happy with the small form factor on the cameras, because of course you can make a quite small full frame bodies like Sony has done, but then you have to remember that you can't make really small lenses. The lenses are going to be big anyways, and with the small body and a big lens, the feel of balance is not very good. It's the same thing with if you put, let's say, that the 100 to 400, for example, into EM10 cameras. It's too big for those. At least it's not balanced. But when you put it up to a bit bigger body like EM1 cameras, then it's okay. It's not big at all. And that's I think is one of the most important things on that, to remember that even though you can make a small full frame bodies, but you have a big lenses, if they are really fast lenses too, then you need to have a big lens. And that's some. Oh, you got. That's a good one. Let's see if we have any questions. There's one comment that I want to say about this. You have Matthias Pratch. Hi, Robin. It was you who brought me to Olympus. The equipment is about 22,000 euros. Meanwhile, thank you.
Wow,
that's a lot of money.
Thanks, Matthias, for letting me know. And my only advice is, get the camera, go out, take more photographs, enjoy photography. Yep. Exactly.
That's the most important. Then there's one question here about some odd noise. That is there something loose inside? Is this normal? It could be the image stabilizer that makes some funny noise, and if you shake your camera, it might, there might be some noise there. But of course, if everything works with the camera, then most likely there's no problem.
So this is what I will suggest you to do. When the camera is turned off, you shake the camera, right? There is something rattling inside the camera. Don't worry. The image sensor is in suspension. It is free to move. There are magnets around the image sensor that is not activated. When you turn on the camera, when the camera is on, the magnets for the 5-axis image stabilization are activated around the image sensor, and it will lock the image sensor. And then when you shake the camera while it's turned on, it no longer rattles. You can try this to verify it yourself. So don't worry, it's perfectly normal that the sensor is made free to move around, and it is allowed to move around so that the 5-axis image stabilization can really work to stabilize the shot and give you that super sharp image, even when you handhold a very long lens or take photos in dark, dim lighting conditions. So it's perfectly fine. So no worries there. No worries there.
Yep. And I was in the beginning saying that might be too late in Australia, but at least we have two that have said that they are from Australia. So we have people from US, Europe, Asia, and Australia. I don't know if somebody's from Africa. That'd be cool. I think I've had once in my live stream, so from every continent except the Antarctica.
Wow.
But every other or every continent that's really good. That's kind of like, I really love the way that we can actually talk to people all around the world with the minimal equipment. This is still, I've done this many times doing this live stream, but it's still mind-blowing to actually be able to do this. It like 15, 20 years ago, it would have, meant to have a big production crew in a big truck in the yard to do this, and it would cost a huge amount of money. Now that you can do it with a small cheap smartphone, you could do this, which is mind-blowing. But okay, that was a side note. Let's see what else. Slovenia is watching too. That's great to hear.
Nice.
Let's see.
I think adding on to the full frame discussion earlier, another point to add is that there are so many players already now. We have Canon, Nikon, Sony, and they're all doing really well. The products are fantastic. For Olympus to enter now to fight is a little bit, business-wise, it's not a good strategy. I'm not saying that Olympus cannot win. It's just that, Sony had like 7-8 years of head start, and Sony and Nikon already made full frame cameras since forever. So for Olympus to come in now and fight, especially after all that's happened, is really bad timing, bad decision. It's just not the best move for a new company.
Yeah, and I have to go back to that also about the LMount, because they said in CP Plus that someone is entering the LMount alliance soon. And of course, that was the speculation. It could be Olympus, but it's not. But of course, it can be a lens manufacturer. I was predicting that it could be DJI has slash Hasselblad, because DJI owns Hasselblad. That could be.
Interesting.
That could be. No idea if that's going to happen. But I predicted before that there might be a new camera company that will make either micro four thirds cameras or full frame cameras is DJI, because they certainly have the knowledge and they are part of actually the micro four thirds alliance already.
Yes.
Drone cameras that can take micro four thirds lenses, very expensive cameras. Like I think they're like 5,000. Those cameras that you put on a big drone. Then you add the lens, so it's not for everybody. And there was one question. I hope I didn't. Yeah, there is. Terry Day already has a Olympus full frame. It's OM1N. Actually, I do also. This back there is the M1.
Yes,
which I actually have. So I do also have. And the funny thing is that there was a company that is making digital backs for SLRs, and it's a Kickstarter project, and I'm waiting for mine. So I might have a digital M1 one day.
When is it coming?
Well, I don't know, because usually these Kickstarters, they might go forever. But I hope it wasn't really expensive, but I backed it up. I backed it, and let's see if that ever comes. It's a really tiny sensor,
I'm sure
so I'm going to have a lot of telephoto.
I'm sure it will come.
It'll be interesting to see if that happens, because there was before the digital came to be mainstream and the digital DSLRs were really expensive. There was this e-film company that made it was like a small film cartridge that had a digital sensor like sticking out, and you could put it in your, but it never made it. It wasn't, they couldn't get it into the market fast enough. But that would have probably changed the whole industry if that has, if that had been reality and it actually worked. Then we would totally have different kinds of cameras, most likely. That would have been totally interesting to have any camera as a digital camera. But,
yeah, that would be fun. That
would be if there's. And then there's this question. I think you're right, Robin, when you say that Olympus and Panasonic should not see each other as an enemy. They should work together. I have a lot of Panasonic and Olympus lenses. And yeah, that is something that they should do. And I can understand that, let's say, for example, the image stabilizer, they have a bit different technology. And also they have a bit different technology how to get rid of chromatic aberration and stuff like that. So it's not perfectly compatible. But I think they should work more closely to each other, so that Olympus could get the very good video things from Panasonic, and then Panasonic might get a better better image stabilizer, even though it is quite good, but it's not as good as Olympus. I think that would benefit them both mostly, but I can understand that they want to keep something for themselves as a selling point, of course.
I think let me clarify, Matthias, that I don't think Olympus and Panasonic see each other as enemy. I think that's a little bit stretched too far.
Like this.
Yeah, enemy, right? But I think what I said has already Peter has said it very well, that they should be working a lot closer together to share more technologies. But I think at the end of the day, Panasonic and Olympus are two very different companies, and their vision for their products are very different. You can see it from day one of Micro Four Thirds implementation. The G1, which came out first, then the Olympus Pen EP1. Both cameras are so different. And the G1, the way it acquires focus is I think it's like twice as fast as the Olympus, but it misses a lot. So Panasonic prioritizes autofocus speed, and they're okay with the misses. Whereas if you look at the EP1, it's a lot slower than the G1, but it almost never misses. When it locks focus, it's 100% accurate. So the engineers, the way they make the products, even the shape of the G1 was shaped to look like a DSLR. It has the proper grip with the hump and the viewfinder, whereas the Olympus EP1 was made totally different. It looks like a pen rangefinder shaped kind of camera. So because of that, I think it's good for us to have variety. It's just
right
that,
here.
Yes, it looks so different from any DSLRs that was such a common camera back then. But I do want the companies to continue to explore their own vision as well. It's just that, there are a lot of technologies that could have shared and they could have benefited from each other.
Yep, that is true. And then there was another one. Yeah, this one is interesting. That's also be an interesting speculation that should Olympus make a medium format camera, and if they go with a bigger sensor, I think they should. Not going for the 35, the traditional 35 millimeter. I think they should go with the bigger sensor than so-called full frame. I think that would be probably more interesting, and they could use it could be maxi 4/3.
I think Alessandro's that's a very good thought, that if Olympus wants to go big, then go big or go home, right? Just skip the full frame and just go to medium format. But at the same time, as a company who just took over from the Olympus Corporation previously, JIP will have to consider whether this will sell. They have to consider immediately within this 1 or 2 years how much money they can make to cover back the cost, and they need to immediately make a camera that is a hit. So considering all this, I'm not saying that that's a bad idea, that the Olympus shouldn't explore medium format. I personally would love to see an Olympus, what was it, Maxi 4/3 or something?
Yeah, that just came out with that.
It's
that. Micro and Maxi. That could probably be pretty cool.
Yeah, but probably maybe a little bit later, when the JIP or OM Digital Solutions have established the roots, they have solid foundation, that the whatever new products that they've come out, the cameras and lenses for the next few years are selling really well, and we all love it, and we believe in what they do, and we can see that they are capable. Then they come up with the medium format. I think it makes sense to explore that a little bit later, but not at this moment. At this moment, I think it will be quite difficult. Yeah,
I totally agree that right now would be a wrong time, but maybe in a few years that could be something.
Yes.
And we've seen that Rob Trek is in the house. Welcome,
hey,
Rob.
What's
cool.
up?
How you doing? It's been answering questions about fisheye lenses, which is actually
let me interrupt you for a bit.
I have one here right now because this is not mine. It's from OMDS. I've been testing that. And it's actually quite fun to use. I did use it a few years ago for a small amount of time, but now that I have had it for a week and been walking around, it's actually quite fun lens. It's not for everybody because it can make a really curvy lines. It's not a direct linear lens. It everything in the if you let's say that you photograph trees, they are like this on the side, and it's not for everybody, but it's interesting. Interesting too.
Well, Rob Trek
and for panoramas, it's really nice.
While Rob is here, I want to. There's an inside joke that's running. I was at Jimmy Chang's live stream, I think 1 or 2 weeks ago, and then when he switched over from his normal talk to photo critique, he lost audio for more than 5 minutes, and he didn't know. It was a full 5 minutes loss of audio, and we were trying to tell him. Someone tried to call him. He didn't pick up. He didn't realize that. We were actually joking, saying, "Oh, Rob has infected Jimmy with his virus somehow." I hope the virus is not coming to this stream though.
No, yeah.
I think we're doing okay.
Yeah, I think I have some power in my microphone too. I think it's everything works. I hope. And let's see what else do we. And Robin, if you see something, just feel free to answer any questions. If what you find interesting, I will try to.
Christian Augustine mentioned Extreme 4/3, X43. That's not too bad.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
Extreme 4/3.
Yeah, we are inventing new products for OMDS here. A total
brainstorm.
Well, maybe that is the new lineup that they are saying that they are.
They will ask them to pay us for using our idea. Yeah, we have evidence in this stream. We record everything.
Oh yes, they do. Yeah, there's also, when we're talking about the fisheye, actually I think the fisheye body cap isn't it 9mm, but beside the point, I think that's also a fun lens. But actually it is something that I've only used once. I think I've just tested it a couple of shots at some photo fairs or these exhibitions that used to be every year. We never know when it's going to be the next time, but that would be actually quite interesting lens to test. I have the 15mm body cap lens, which is a lot of fun too. But that would probably be even more fun. I haven't really tested it that much, but
the 9mm fisheye body cap I think it's a fantastic lens. Image quality wise, it's actually quite good. The only thing that I would advise anyone using the lens is to be very careful with the manual focusing lever, because sometimes it moves by itself. It doesn't stay there. Oh, yeah. So when you go like close, maybe like half a meter away or focus to infinity, if that the adjustment move a little bit too far, then your photos will all be out of focus. That's the only problem, that because the aperture is fixed, right? It's f8, and you can't have more or less depth of field. So pretty much you're focusing. You need to be careful with that manual focusing.
Yeah, there's one comment about the full frame thing from Rob Trek. He says, I think Olympus could make a Panasonic S5 with face detect and all the amazing features of Olympus, plus some additional new features and win. Yeah, that was actually something that I would love Olympus to make, is more a video-centric. It's a good video camera, but it still lacks some things like 4K 60p, for example, which is a big miss, I think. I think they should have added. I don't know why they haven't done it. In some other, these 180-degree shutter, so you could actually have that without setting up the shutter speed. It could be a 180-degree shutter all the time, even though if you change the shutter speed or the frame rate, you wouldn't have to worry about the shutter speed and all kinds of that stuff, and maybe adding 10-bit also internally and stuff. Small things that makes it a bit better, because the usability and the image stabilizer is really good. You don't need any gimbals with you can just walk around and it's totally smooth. And it's almost like having a gimbal, and that makes it a lot easier to film. And what I usually do, if I know that there is going to be a short interview, for example, I will do it handheld, because it looks better. It looks so nice.
Natural, but of course, right?
10-15 minutes, and I'm like, come on, please stop. And if I know it's going to be a longer interview, then I will use the tripod.
But
I just love to do it handheld. But yeah, I agree about the S5. It is. I've heard from Matti Sulanto that it's a marvelous camera. I haven't actually seen it yet or used it, but it's not actually much bigger than the G9 from Panasonic, which is about the same size as the M1 cameras. So that would be probably quite good. Let's see, what else do we have?
Yeah, guys, please ask your questions. We will try our best to answer them. And of course, Peter is an amazing photographer, and I'm a photographer myself. So it will be amazing
if we can add amazing to your saying too.
So I mean, it would be great if we get like photography-related questions outside of just about cameras and lenses, because I think Peter has a lot of experience and knowledge to share on how to improve photography as well, right? Yeah, there will be something that everyone can benefit.
Oh yes, let's see. And I'm looking at the comments here and seeing that lots and lots of interesting. I just have to pick.
Sure.
I think sorry, not sure how you pronounce your first name, but Hugh Williams is sorry about this. I even used it with panorama mode. It's great. Yes, the lever has not much resistance. I think you're
just gotta be careful. Yeah, the manual focus. Just gotta be a little bit careful with that.
Yeah.
Okay, since we are talking about the body cap lens, this is a speculation, right? This is a rumor. I don't know how true this rumor is, but we have a suspicion that the reason why Olympus created the body cap lens is because these lenses, the tiny lenses, were manufactured by Olympus for smartphone cameras. And somehow, either it was rejected, or either there was a surplus or too much, there's extra units available, so they convert them into a tiny f8 lens for the micro four thirds system.
It could be it.
Yes, that
makes sense, because otherwise
speculation.
Otherwise, why make a lens like that?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, right? So we suspected. I don't have any evidence. Don't quote me on this. It's just my assumption or my suspicion that Olympus makes smartphone lenses, the smartphone cameras lenses at that time. So these are like just extra lenses were lying around, and they say, hey, why don't we create a fun body cap lens and sell it to make extra money? Yeah.
There's one question that relates more to photography. Is that Robin, your low light images seems really clean. What is your current processing workflow? And this is interesting because this is always something that Olympus user asks, how to get cleaner images.
I think, Terry, that's an excellent question. But before I go to the post-processing part, which I will talk about that in length. But I want to talk about how I shoot first in the field, because I believe that getting the right shot as best as you can while you're shooting is important even before you post-process. All right, so when I'm shooting, if I know that I need to use high ISO, I'll try to avoid, of course. There are many ways to avoid using high ISO, but let's say that I'm in a situation where I have no choice but I have to push my ISO to 3200, 6400 or beyond, then there are a few things that I do. First, I do not underexpose my image. I'll make sure that it's properly exposed. I'll sometimes slightly overexpose. I will not severely overexposed. I'll just make sure that it's never underexposed. That's very important, because it is always the underexposed part, the dark parts where you try to raise it up in post-processing, that brings out all the horrible noise. So that's the first thing, never underexposed, right? So while you do that, make sure you also have sufficient shutter speed, because if your shutter speed is too slow, your subject is blurred, and then nothing in the post-processing can help you. Right? It's not just about getting noise-free image. If your subject has to have clarity, it has to have depth. So there's that. And then also the third thing that I consider is lighting. A lot of people think, oh, it's low light, so the lighting is going to be crappy, it's going to be horrible, so don't even think about it, just shoot. No. There are two different things to think about. One is the amount of light. One is quality of light. Well, generally, when you shoot outside, let's say now it is 10 o'clock at night, you're in the middle of the street, everything is dark. The amount of light is low, but the quality of light, the direction of light, the color of light, all this needs to be considered. If you have good quality light on your subject, even if it's very low light, you still can get the depth, the clarity, the sharpness, and the good color on your subject. So consider these few very important things. Never underexpose. Make sure that you have enough shutter speed, your subject is frozen, it's not blurred due to motion, and of course the quality of light. Now let's say you have gotten all this done, you've taken a photograph that's ISO 6400, 2800. When I load it, I use currently Capture One Pro. I did not even touch the noise reduction. I left it to default. The default is 50, 50, 50. Everything is in the middle, right? So I didn't even move the slider. So what I will do is I will adjust in my post-processing workflow. Usually in low light, the camera might sometimes hit and miss when it comes to color. I will adjust the white balance a little bit warmer, a little bit colder. I'll adjust the color. And then I'll adjust the exposure, either it's a little bit brighter or a little bit darker, and contrast. I will not touch the shadow slider. I will not increase the exposure excessively, because these are the things that will introduce noise in the image and you should avoid. All right. Oh, and of course, by now you should know you must be shooting RAW. Do not shoot JPEG. If you know that you're going to shoot ISO 6400, 2800, do not shoot JPEG. That's suicidal. Shoot RAW, so you have a little bit more room to stretch. Post-processing, like you change the white balance. There is no consequence. You will not add extra noise in the image. If you shoot JPEG, you change the color a little bit, just like warmer tone, just shift a little bit white balance, all the noise will pop out. So do not shoot JPEG, shoot RAW, and do not overexpose or underexpose your shots. And then when you get the right exposure, just adjust a little bit, as minimal as you can, and that's it. That's what I do with my post-processing for high ISO shots. I hope that helps. I actually did a few videos on high ISO shooting. I also showed how I process the photos. You can check out my videos. Just search high ISO, low light. And I will still continue to do videos or content on this topic in the future. This is an ongoing thing, right? So I hope that helps.
Yeah, and if you're not familiar with Robin's channel, there is the link to his channel in the stream. So go check out that. There's a lot of good other content too. But yes, that's a really important thing. And as Robin said, it really starts from making the image. While you're photographing, you should really not underexpose. And I think it's even better to make it slightly too bright for your likings in the camera, and then bring down the exposure if possible. That usually gives you better results, because when you're lowering the exposure a bit, it will hide the noise. It's still there, but it's not that visible, and that's a good way. And also, it depends on what software you use. At the time, the best, I think, is either Topaz Denoise AI, or then you have the it's DxO PhotoLab 4. It has this deep prime, which is mind-blowing, and that's something you might want to consider also if you see that it is a problem. But then of course it's always about what do you consider to be too grainy image or too much noise, because sometimes it's not about noise, it's also what the noise looks like, and it might even add some mood to your images. Sometimes it depends. I don't find the noise from Olympus cameras not too bad. Of course, if you go to 12,800, then it's not at its best, but anything below that, I think it's pretty reasonable if you make your exposures and everything correctly. And then there was about question from ZYC is about birding, and I was wondering if you have tips on choosing monopod versus tripod versus hand holding for getting shots. Well, I think all of those are very good ways of holding a camera. It depends on the way you like to shoot. If you just want to wander around in the woods and make these, what do you call this, kind of like shots that you just walk and see something and do, then of course setting up a tripod for that is no use. But then if you are in a hide, for example, or waiting birds to come to a certain place, because usually they sit down on some things and there might be some food on the ground, then a tripod could be a good option, just to have it there and have the ball head quite loose so you can move it. And then of course the monopod is also a good way. It's more about choosing tripod or monopod. It's about your personal preferences and likings. What are you more used to? And of course, then you, like I said, if you're in a height, then of course a tripod is a lot better option. too. But usually what I've seen that a lot of people have two cameras. They might have one on a tripod on a height, and then they might have a different lens on a different body, which they can do handheld too. But of course, that depends a bit on the height, because sometimes you just cannot do that. Height, it might be blocked. There's only a hole for the camera on a tripod, so that depends. But I think with Olympus, I like a lot the fact that you can do handheld too. It's easy to carry, and easy to just to have it there, and then when you see something, just fire away. I think that's the way I like to do it. But it depends on where you are. How would you do? You just about those exotic birds that are in the park. do you ever go out and shoot them with longer lenses? And do you?
First of all, ZYC, thanks for the question. I am not a birder, so I will not pretend to be a bird photographer expert, right? But from my understanding, depends on what cameras and lenses that you're using. If you have like the Olympus EM1X or EM1 Mark III, and if you're pairing it with, say, the Olympus 300 Pro, you probably don't need a tripod. If you're shooting for long duration, I understand sometimes you're waiting for a bird to land on a branch for 2 hours and you're holding the camera, even though Olympus 300 and the EM1 Mark III, they're relatively compact compared to other full frame options, but holding it for hours and hours on, waiting for the bird, it can strain your neck, your shoulder, your arms. So maybe having a monopod will be okay, will be fine. I probably don't see the need for a tripod unless, like what Peter is saying, that that's the spot that the bird will be there, or whatever they're shooting will land there, and that you don't have to do a lot of movement, just tiny bit of movement, then you just fix a tripod there, then that's fine. But other than that, I think a monopod should be all right for the moment where you have to wait and wait and wait for the bird, and once it appears, then maybe you can just lift it up and and take your shots. But other than that, if you're running and gunning, depending on what you do, like if I go to the zoo or I go to the bird park, or I just see something I shoot, I don't think a tripod or monopod would be necessary, because it is just shoot for that few moments and you put down the camera already. You're not constantly holding it and waiting. So I think, and Olympus cameras and lenses are very much light anyway. It shouldn't be an issue, right? So yeah, but I can totally see where a monopod and tripod comes in really, really handy in some situations, because I have friends who waited whole day just for one bird. And
that's what they do. Yeah. If you want that photograph, that's what you have to do.
I admire your patience and your determination, but I am a very impatient photographer. I think, yeah.
I have the same problem. And then there is one question about street photography.
Sure.
Oh, sorry. I will take that one next. We'll take the Henrik's question. We'll come back to Terry, to you. Robin, I love your street shots. How do you approach people for street portraits? This is also interesting to hear always, because this is a thing that gets asked quite a lot.
Sure.
A very good question, Henrik.
Thanks, Hendrik. Okay, I'm going to answer this question as a Malaysian, because I'm based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So what I'm saying here may not be applicable to other countries or other parts of the world, right?
That's an important
yeah, this is very important. And then we have different rules and regulations or laws that you need to be aware of. So here, generally, shooting in public is allowed. Anyone in public property, we can take photographs. Pretty much that's okay. The law will protect the photographer. But if you go into a private property or residential areas or commercial lot, that's a different story. Like you go into a shopping mall, no photography allowed. Or, it depends on the shopping mall's policy. Or if you go into a restaurant, then it's different. If you go into someone's garden, it is behind the house, then you have to ask for their permission, or, they can just say, no photography allowed, and you have to obey. So in Malaysia, in a public space, like open streets, 5-foot way, outside the shop, outside the building, it's perfectly fine. So the question is, how do I approach people to do the street portrait, the close-up shots? Typically, first, I will not have the camera covering my face. If I want to approach someone, I will make myself enter the person's vision, that whatever the person is doing, right? First of all, I normally don't disturb the person. If the person is walking fast or going somewhere or doing something, I don't disturb them. I will only approach someone when the person is looking like he's free, he has nothing to do, and he's okay, you know. So if the person is doing something really important, I will not distract the person, right? I'm not, hey, stop, I want to take a photo. I don't do that, right? So when I see, okay, the person is standing there, and he look at me, and he knows that I'm around, and then I will judge the person's character, the appearance. Is he angry or not? Does he look like he's in a good mood? Or does he look like he's been scolded by his wife in the morning? You know, you need to think about these things. If he has that face that looks like he's going to like claw your eye out of your face, that kind of, you know, like, you know, he's gonna, if he has a knife, he'll stab you in your eye or something like that. If he has that kind of face, of course you don't go and approach that person. But the person look at you and he smiles at you, that's an invitation. So go in, So the first step, as I mentioned, is make sure that everything is okay. I'm not disturbing anyone. Secondly, I make sure that the person is in a good condition, like he's not angry or he's not frustrated, he's not feeling, you know, miserable. Then approachable, right? Then I'll go in. I'll just say, normally I'll just go straight to the point. Hi, can I take a photograph? 99% of the time is yes. So, you know, after you've worked out all these other issues beforehand, you approach this person, most of the time it's yes. And I'll just take a few shots, I'll let the person see the shot, and sometimes we talk, he'll ask some questions what I'm doing, or I'm the street photographer, we start talking. Sometimes we exchange contacts, I'll email the photograph over to that person, and that's it. And one thing that I must emphasize is always be respectful. For whatever reason, if the person declines, if the person say no, just respect that. Say, okay, it's fine, you know, no problem. You ask the permission. If the person doesn't give you the permission, he has the right to refuse, and it's okay. Don't confront, right? You don't know. Maybe the person is there for some reasons that you don't want to get involved in. Maybe he's in trouble, or maybe he's trying to avoid something. You don't know, right? So it's best to just ask permission, and if the person say yes, then you go. If the person say no, respect that, move on. There are hundreds of other possibilities waiting for you. Just stay positive and continue shooting. I hope that answers your question, Hendrik.
Yeah, that was very good points. And I used to do that about 10, 15 years ago, quite a bit, walking late at night in downtown Helsinki and getting, you know, street portraits or photograph street portraits. And what worked the best was when you see someone, let's say that she or he has a hat, then you just say, hey, wow, I like your hat. Can I take a photograph of you? When you say something nice to them and yes, compliment them about something, it's really hard to say no. If you have said that, wow, you have a nice hat, and then you kind of like try to make the image show that you have the hat, and then you show it to them, and then you can take the photograph that you actually wanted. You don't care about the hat, but it's something that makes. But I have to say that it has changed a bit because of the privacy things that people are more worried about. And like 10, 15 years ago, there was no problem for me, okay, I was a bit younger too, to go to a, let's say I see a very nice looking lady in the street or a young girl and ask to photograph. I would be a bit more hesitating to do it today because there are, you know, the things have changed a bit in 10, 15 years. So always be careful. And I think what Robin started his answer was that every country has a bit different laws, rules, and habits, and people are different. And there was someone who was commenting that it wouldn't work that way in Germany, for example. But the funny thing is that when you do that and ask people if they can be photographed, like Robin said, it's astonishing that 99% says, yeah, why not?
This is my experience.
Very, very. It's just I think it's more about the photographer just to have the courage to ask, because I know people that they just don't have it, and some, you know, and be open, and I don't really like the old style candid way, and definitely do not like the way some people do that. They have a very long lens and they photograph people in the streets. I think that's not something that I would not do, because it's in any place in the world, because I don't think it's very nice to grab. But then we, of course, if we are using the traditional street photography lens and we're open there and everybody can see that you're photographing, then it's a bit different thing, I think, in a public place, and of course obey the rules. But before we go on, I need to answer
sure.
already.
Go ahead.
What's going and about the long lenses, I have used them both. The 150 to 400 Pro I had for 2 hours, and there is actually a video. It was pouring rain, and it was the worst weather. Even in Finland, it was considered really bad, and it was marvelous lens. It's the best lens I've ever used. But the problem with that lens is that it's not very inexpensive. I think it's $8,000/euros, so it's not for everybody. So the 300 f4 is a good alternative because it's a lot cheaper. That also is not the one of the cheapest lenses because what it is. But I haven't tested them side by side. But there's also the 100 to 400, which is not a pro lens, but it has some weather sealing and good quality. The 100 to 400 doesn't work with MKII, but it has, I think, 3 stops of stabilizing, so it's pretty good. And in that sense, it's really hard, but I think you should kind of check those 3 lenses if you are into birding. But of course, 7,000, you have got to be pretty serious about it. Unless you have deep pockets, that's of course a different thing. If that's not a problem, then I would get the 150 to 400, no question about it. But it's a lot of money, and I cannot justify for the cost, and also I don't have the money to get it. So
maybe if we become wildlife photographers, maybe then National Geographic jobs or something, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, this is interesting. I don't know if you guys have seen that what Matti Sulanto did. He made a Zine magazine. I think he posted a video about it yesterday.
Yes, I saw the notification. I haven't clicked on the video. Sorry, Matti.
Me too. Yeah, sorry, Matti. I haven't watched it yet, but I will. Don't worry.
Yeah, we will.
Probably show his work. Have you considered producing a collaborative sign? Peter, Robin, Jimmy, and Rob showcase your works with Olympus. That's actually, Brian, that's not a bad idea. Maybe we should think about that.
Sure.
That would actually not a bad idea to make a kind of like an Olympus showcase.
And then we will sell it, and you guys will have to buy it.
Yes, yeah. But I promise, if we do that, we will send one for you, Brian.
You heard that? Make sure you have this link, evidence.
Yeah. Well, the live stream is on, so we have evidence, and he can claim his one. Let's see, what else do we have?
Just before anyone asks about my experience or my thoughts on the Olympus 150 to 400 Pro, I have not seen it. We don't have one unit in Malaysia yet for us to test. So I will let Peter handle the questions about that amazing lens. I'm sure it's amazing, although I haven't had it yet. So, yeah.
That is an amazing lens. Yeah, it's all right every day, and hope you can figure out what to get. And let's see what else. There's another one. I think Micro Four Thirds design is a great idea. Maybe we add Maddie there too, and have a Micro Four Thirds sign, or actually just bunch of friends making a joint magazine. Yep. That's something that we have to really think about.
Sure.
Let's see, what else? Do we have any questions? And as I said, Robin, if you find anything, just...
My friend, Amir, he actually asked, what personal projects are you working on? Or what photography work are you passionate about? It's for both of us. Amir is a street photographer in Malaysia. He does come up with me to do shutter therapy from time to time. We usually attack Kuala Lumpur streets in the weekends, but not so much lately because of lockdown and the movement restrictions, and we can't go much on the public. And I don't want to be seen with like a big group of photographers. So we haven't been doing a lot of street shooting. But Amir has been the one that has been doing photo walks with me for many, many, many years. And a lot of my street photography shots, Amir has been there. He has seen them happen as well with his own eyes. And he himself is an amazing photographer. I've seen a lot of his amazing work. So to answer Amir's question, he's asking like, what are personal projects. For myself, it's an ongoing long-term project. I don't think there is a start and end. My current project is still shooting portraits of strangers. So I will go up to a random stranger and I'll take portraits of them. It has been going on for the past 5-6 years. It's still ongoing. Whenever I have an opportunity, I will find some random people anywhere in the world, not just in Kuala Lumpur. I'll take portraits of them. And it is a very specific close-up look, straight on the face. The way I compose the shot is very consistent for all the portrait photographs. Another one of my more fun and exciting project that I'm doing is jumping cats, which I've answered in the chat session. I don't know if you guys realize, if you have seen a lot of the shots that I've shared on my Instagram or my blog, or even like test shots for my review cameras, I always like to shoot cats jumping up, down, left, right, whatever, jumping cats. And not only that, it's a perfect way to test how fast Olympus cameras autofocuses and reacts when you see the cat jumps, you shoot, right? But it's fun. Like, cat jumping is really dramatic, right? It's like wildlife in the city. So I have quite an extensive collection. I think enough for me to make an exhibition now. I can probably pull out 15 jumping cat shots to create like a mini solo exhibition or something. So there's an ongoing thing that I'm doing. But other than that, I don't think I'm one of those artistic photographers who do like a visual, deep, narrative storytelling where they uncover a dark family secret, or they have like a very activist mindset where they want to tell certain issues about, say, feminism, or fighting about what's right in the city, or to protect the underprivileged. I'm not that kind of photographer. I think we do have other photographers who are more suited to do those kind of work. For me, I'm more emphasizing on what I want to do and what I love to do, and my photography will have to reflect myself, not necessarily on something that I want to fight for others, right? So that's just me. I'm a very simple person. I hope that answers the question, Amir.
That was interesting to hear, because I think projects are something that all photographers, professionals and hobbyists and amateurs and whatnot, should have. That kind of gives, when you go out shooting, you always have something to start with, even though you end up shooting something else and photographing something else. But having a project will help you a lot. But don't stick to that. If it evolves onto something else, then I think it has done its job. So that's most important thing. And there was one about exhibitions too.
Oh wow, great! These are the questions that we should be talking about as photographers, right? Storytelling, photo projects, exhibitions. Yeah.
Oh yes. Let's see if there is a question about. I think I missed it. Is it somewhere? Yeah, you answered about the lens hood thing, which we actually should have. You know what we should sometimes do? A live battle between us, saying why it's a good thing, and then the other one. We could have that. That would be totally fun, like a 30-minute roasting each other about lens hoods.
to be fair, I'm not against lens hood. Like, if
I
you
know
want to
that,
use it,
but that was a joke. But it's still that would be so much fun to do, because I think there was one video that you commented. Really, it was like, yeah, I'm happy. Now I got one more reason not to use the lens hood, and that's actually
the snow, right, on the lens.
Yeah, no, not the snow. That's why you need it. But the wind, it was the wind.
Oh, it was
when you have your camera on a tripod and you have a big lens hood, it will actually affect the vibration of the movement, and that's the only time not to have it. But let's have another live stream about lens hood sometime.
Sure.
That'd be cool. But yeah, it's like everything in photography. It doesn't matter if you don't want to use it or use them. The only thing that matters is the image. So it's totally fine, whatever you like. But it still would be fun too.
I'm sure. Are exhibitions allowed in Finland at the moment? Art galleries, are they open?
No, they're not open.
Oh, that's sad.
I don't think they. The saddest thing was that there was the Museum of Photography opened a new exhibition area in downtown Helsinki. It's a bit on the side, on an old industrial area, but now they have a gallery right in the middle of the city. It used to be it's actually in the basement of a big shopping mall, which used to be a grocery store. Now they have it there, and they had Vivian Maier exhibition, but I don't think it was ever opened. Now they have actually exhibition from what's the movie maker? I forgot, but his Stanley Kubrick. Yeah, his
nice.
Photo exhibition.
Wow.
That images that he took when he was 17 years old. They have an exhibition right now, but I think they might start opening those places in a few weeks. So I hope I can see that. But that's usually something that I really like to go. And every time I travel, I try to find some kind of a photo galleries and center of photography. And I've seen some amazing exhibitions. One of the most astonishing was the exhibition called Mexican Suitcase. If you don't know what that is, you should Google it.
I've heard of it. I've heard of it.
It's lost negatives from Robert Capa and Greta Tardo, and
wow.
And it was somebody packed those negatives for safety, and it was for somehow ended up in Mexico, and they found that suitcase a few years ago, I think 10 years ago, and it was I was in New York at the time when they had the exhibition, and what was good about the exhibition was that they had the contact sheets, which was like every film, every frame from the film was printed, and they had those exhibited, and then they had the print that they actually used from that, and that was really good because it kind of told not about one image, but you could see 36 images, how they actually approached the whole situation, and that's probably one of the biggest exhibition. But about exhibitions, and that is something that everyone should try to achieve if they're serious in photography. Try to exhibit your images in local libraries, or it doesn't have to be a fancy gallery. It can be a corridor in a mall, or it can be anywhere. That's really a good experience and good thing, because the biggest thing usually is that you have to kill your darlings, which means that it might not be your best images, but it's the best series of images, because sometimes you have a good image but it doesn't fit in the story or the exhibition, and that's really a good way of also learning photography is to trying to collect and have an exhibition. And it doesn't have to be a fancy gallery. It can be, in your workplace or anywhere that they might want to hang some images. Of course, now is a good time to start thinking about it, because there's going to be a need of different kinds of happenings and things when this whole mess is over.
And also, like in Malaysia, because of the pandemic and lockdown, two of the largest photography events in Malaysia, they were cancelled last year. Kuala Lumpur Photography Festival, KLPF, and also Obscura Festival of Photography, one in Kuala Lumpur and one in Penang. And these two festivals will have a lot of exhibitions happening all around the cities in multiple locations. And I used to have just so much fun just absorbing myself at the art, the work of the artists. Sure, looking at the photographs, and I missed the part where you just look. There's this difference between looking at photographs on the screen and looking at photographs in real print, right? And there's just a different way of absorbing the information from the photograph. And photographs also appear differently, because on the screen, you're looking at light. The light is directed at you from the screen. The screen is emitting the light. But when you look at the print, it's more like looking real life, because the print itself, the paper, does not emit light. It needs light from other source to shine on it, to reflect it back to you. It's just like when you're looking at a subject in real life, most of the subjects don't have light, but relies the light to shine on it to reflect it back to you. That's why print normally will look so much more realistic, and it just appears so much more epic if it's printed large. So I miss looking at prints in exhibitions. And sometimes in these exhibitions, the artists are there, the photographers are there. You can talk to them, you can ask about their inspiration, the thought process, what made them shoot what they shoot, or some of them take 10 years just to produce an exhibition, and it's just so inspiring to really see and really experience these exhibitions. I really wish things go back to normal. I just want to just get myself lost in exhibitions and art galleries and just absorb. Just I miss that.
Yeah, that's exactly. And I just want to show, because somebody was saying that this I do have
nice.
the book. I'm a big sucker for books, so I do have the book about that exhibition. But yes, that is one thing that I really want to do, is to go exhibitions after everything is gone. But another thing is that now what we're talking about street photography is that I will pick up the portrait of strangers again after everything gets more safe in the cities. And I think because we will have, I bet, a lot of people moving around when it's free and possible without any big hazards or getting afraid that you will get the disease. So that I think that will be, people will go out on the streets and have fun, and that's what usually happens in Finland anyways during the summer, because it's 6 months, it's cold and dark, and then all of a sudden it gets a bit, let's say, well, warm is subjective, but we get like 15 Celsius. That's warm.
Nice. I'll take 15. I'll take 15 any day.
Oh yeah, that is good. Let's see if we have any.
Sure.
Here is some comment about Kubrick was a very passionate photographer. That's why his movies are so beautiful in terms of camera work. He knew what to ask for his director of cinematography. And I think it wasn't Stanley Kubrick who actually made a special lens for one scene that had a focal length, not focal length, but the fastest aperture was 0.75. I think it was Stanley Kubrick who made that one lens. That's kind of dedication. You build a lens for one scene in a movie because that's what was his vision, and that's really interesting.
Roman K was asking, how often do you guys print your personal work? For me, when I still can shoot a lot, right? Because recently, for the past 1 year, we couldn't go out to shoot that much. And most of the stuff that I shoot, they are mostly to create videos on the YouTube channel or to test certain products. When I have more time to shoot, when there was no restrictions, no lockdown, I would say average about a month, I will print a mini photo book. The book will have maybe 20 pages. So it's a collection of maybe 30 to 40 of my photographs. Every 1 to 2 months, I'll print like a really small photo book. Let me just grab the book quickly. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that'd be interesting. Please.
All right, I'm back. I'm not sure if you can see this book.
Oh yes, we can see that.
Probably not in focus, but this is like just.
We can see plenty of it.
So I have like dozens of these books with like random. Sometimes it's street photography. Sometimes these are my ongoing portraits, photographs where I do take them in specific ways. So it's just a random collection of like photographs. I probably should consider doing a tighter curation on how to arrange them in a better story format. But I mean, I'm just printing for myself, just for fun.
Yeah, I was just going to say that if you're printing for yourself, then it doesn't really matter that much. But of course, if you're selling, then you might want to do a bit different way of curating. But that's good. And right at the moment, I do not print anything. To be honest, I don't have a printer right now. I used to do that. That we had a wall, the other place where we used to live. Like 10, 15 years ago, I used to print every month. We had a place for that, and I used to print, one of the best photographs of the month, and had that over there. And now I only, hang prints to walls, that they can fit on the walls. And we have some, some art all over the place here and hanging on the walls. And the only print that I have is from one of my exhibitions, which is. Might not be the most colorful, but this is
that's nice.
It's a print that this was exhibited. It's actually from Vilnius, which is in I think in Lithuania.
Nice.
And it's interesting. But I know I should print. The problem is that. Other printers, of course, if you need to print all the time, so that it would be be any use, because if the printer stays there for a month or two, then all the ink will dry.
Oh,
and
yeah.
stuff like that. So that's the biggest problem. But of course there'll be other ways to send them for printing, and then. But I haven't really got around to it. Maybe I should. That would be.
Yeah.
That would
Matti Sulanto has a printer, right? I remember.
Yeah, he has. He prints quite a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
He does some printing. Yeah, he does. Let's see, what else do we have?
Sure.
Yeah, this is just a comment for your comment about the print versus screen, about the using them for viewing still photos for closer distance with the television. Of course, yeah, that is something that you could do, is to have a kind of like a screen that has different, and you can hang it to a wall. It's a different experience. But I'm also a big fan of real prints, and also like books. Everything I read is mostly online or audiobooks. But photographic books with pictures and stuff, that's I want to have a book, because that is physical, something that physical. Because like you said about you curating the work, that's usually curated and made so and how the photographer wants those images to be looked at. When we go online, we hop into different images like random. Of course, it's all right for everybody to do the way they want, but it's also interesting to see how the photographer has intended the images to be looked at. And I think that's also one part of exhibitions and also books. Yeah. And let's see.
Also, like, I will encourage people to looking at, because we just talk about prints and books at exhibitions, right? Of course, printing or making photo books will be expensive. So I'm not asking you to spend like a lot of money just for the experience. But if you can, when the pandemic is over, just go to local art galleries, or if you have a photography festival, just go there, immerse yourself with the photography inspiration, and they'll have books there as well that you can just browse and really feel the difference viewing the photographs in print versus just looking at photographs at the screen. There will be a big difference. Yeah, but if you can, as you slowly move forward, you don't have to make huge prints like what Peter is showing. That is actually an art gallery quality print. We can start with small prints, like postcard size prints, which can cost a few cents each print. And even a small print like that, it will look very different, and you'll appreciate the colors, the details, as you hold in your hand looking under a good light. So maybe you can start with, just looking at small prints, collect them, and you can put them all laid on the floor, on the table, and look at your photographs, and you will start to understand or see yourself as a photographer better. You look at the kind of subjects that you take, how you take the subjects, and how you sequence the photographs. It's a very interesting way of looking at it. And I've been to a lot of photography workshops, curation workshops. How they do it is they actually encourage you to make prints, and they'll lay it all over the floor, on the table, or put it all on the wall, and then they'll start to move the photographs around like a jigsaw puzzle. Yeah, so print is a way for you to visually look at your body of photography work and really understand your direction or what you're doing with your photography. Yeah.
Yeah, and one good way also is it involves printing, that to get those small prints and hang the best image you have, and make a print and hang it onto your wall. It can be a small print, and then when you get the second best or even better, then hang the second one. It's actually quite hard to get three images that are stunning and actually have a relationship with each other in some way.
Yes.
It's actually one of the best practices to do, and that might lead to something. And all of a sudden you have the ninth there, then you start looking at the first one. I'll need to take that out. That's no good. And then that might happen.
Yes.
And since you were talking about photo exhibitions and books and inspiration, what are your inspirations? or what photographers inspire you? Is the right way of asking. Do you have any inspirational photographers that influenced your way of thinking about photography, or is?
During my early stage when I started photography, a very influential photographer at that time that I really respected and I looked up to was Jay Dickman. He's an Olympus visionary. I think he appeared live on Jimmy's Red 35 Jimmy Chang's stream, I think a month or 2 months ago. Jay Dickman is an amazing photographer. I actually bought his book, Digital Photography. It's a beginner's book on how to use Olympus cameras. I learned a lot from him, and I just like the way he composed his images, the way he put different elements into his photographs. So in my initial stage, I drew a lot of my motivation or ideas actually from Jay Dickman. But as I move along and I grew as a photographer, I look for inspiration from people that I can actually reach out to. I'm not necessarily looking for some photographers that is so far away, or they are legends, or like Vivian Maier or Henri Cartier-Bresson. These are like legends, or some of them may not even be alive anymore, and you can't talk to them and you can't interact with them. So I'm looking for inspiration from places where I can actually reach, right? And one influential photographer is actually Kurt Tuck. Kurt Tuck, he runs a long blog. His blog is visualsciencelab.blogspot.com. He writes a lot about photography. He shares about his portrait. Part of my inspiration of shooting portraits, it came from Kurt Tuck. Kurt Tuck is an amazing portrait photographer. I would one day just love to meet him and just sit down and talk about portrait with him for an entire day, drinking too much coffee. So Kurt Tuck, I have emailed him. We have emailed each other. He has commented on my blog. I've commented on his blog. He's an amazing person. He has so much knowledge. I think I can learn a lot from him. So Kurt Tuck is one of them. Another photographer that I drew inspiration from is Ming Tian. Ming Tian is a local Malaysian photographer. He also used Micro Four Thirds products. He used Olympus EM1 OMD system and the 60mm lens to shoot commercial watches. He's an amazing photographer. He was an ambassador for Hasselblad for a time. Then he worked for Hasselblad before before DJI bought over Hasselblad. So Ming Tian is a friend still in Malaysia. I still find him from time to time. I learn. So these are the people that I can, write emails to, ask questions, or if I have problems, I can go to them for answer. And yeah, these are the two that I can think of at the moment. There are a lot of others that I draw inspiration from as well. So yeah.
That is interesting to hear, and I like your approach that you're not only getting your inspiration from the old legend, but also from contemporary photographers that you can reach out to, and that's really important, because most photographers, because I'm a photographer, I can say that, are really nice, and they will answer you, and that's what I really like. And of course, you have these different ways of contacting you. Instagram, for example, is a good way of contacting.
Yes.
But I tend to still, personally, I do like the old masters in a way, because the way is so inspiring, because most of the old masters, they have figured out to do the photography a bit different way. Every one of them have brought something into our photography, in the photography world. It might be a bit different things, but the way they did the work, made it more interesting also, because they've added up something that we can kind of use. And I am not saying that we are copying, but we are kind of implementing and progressing also, that some better and some does it worse. But anyways, we all do it. And I think that's really interesting. That's kind of like where we came from, in a way. and even though we went there or anything like that, but I think that's really interesting. But for myself, I think Instagram is something that to find inspiration also. Yes. Of course, there's a lot of crap and a lot of just haunting for likes, and but still there is a lot of interesting photographers. But what I tend to like is this pretty rough style street photography, like like you have heard the what's the guy's name? The Japanese Daido Moriyama, for example.
Oh yeah, Daido. Yes, he's a legend.
Very rough stuff, and I like the style. I probably wouldn't, myself do that way. And then also there's the Swedish photographer called Anders Petersen, who I've actually been on his workshops a couple of times, and he's really good, good photographer and really good teacher. That's also something to consider, because he always used to say that when we had these assignments and then you brought back the images and he was going like, yeah, this is really nice, but you need to be more horrible. Think with your gut, not your brain, your gut. So it's like saying that you need to have the feeling, the passion, and not overthinking the image. Just go in there and photograph. And that's also where I actually learned from him the thing that I always say, that perfect images, those are usually boring. You need to have something that distracts you, something that is not right. It's really hard to explain what it is, but usually you need to have some distracting elements in the image to be it more interesting. If it's too perfect, everything is perfect, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, nice, next one. And that's but it's really hard to say what it is, the distracting elements. I have a friend who calls it the Batman's cat.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning
that. Batman's cat in your image. And actually, I have a video named Batman's Cat too. All right, let's see what else, if we have any questions. There was something that I want to... we were talking about inspiration, so I want to lift this. Goran Lucic. Greetings from Germany, guys. You both are huge inspirations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's always nice to inspire people to photograph. And let's do this one, because we want to be good. I follow both of your channels. The topics which both you cover are superb. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, speaking of topics, right? It's always very hard. Like, whenever I do a video on a topic that I want, the views just drop like so bad.
That's
so sad. Like for example, I do a topic on how to do a mini photography project which will improve your photography, or which I talk about curation, I talk about printing, I talk about these things. It was like one of my worst videos. And then I remember I actually featured a National Geographic editor from Thailand. He published a book, Black Day, documenting the mourning process of Thailand people after their king passed away. It was a 1-year project. The book was fantastic. And I managed to get hold of the photographer, and he himself is a National Geographic editor. I think that's the worst video in my entire YouTube platform. I feel so bad for him, because I bought the book. I love his photographs. I think a lot of people can learn from how he make the project, But to choose the topic to make in the YouTube channel is just so frustrating, because there's so many things that I want to do. And then when we know that the views don't do well, we also have to be very careful, because if the views just kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse, it's very hard for the YouTube algorithm to help you to pick up the pace again. So we also have to consistently find, like for me, I have to find the topics like, how to share OMD tips and tricks. Then the views will come back. But I have been sharing so many tips and tricks. I don't think I have any more to give.
There aren't any tricks left.
And between you and me, Peter, we have covered all Olympus cameras and lenses.
I bet. And then we add Rob, Trek, and Jimmy to the equation.
Everything.
There isn't a topic that hasn't been covered yet about Olympus cameras.
It's so hard. And then we talk about like composition, and you see or storytelling, the view just drops. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, I know. Actually, what talking about worst videos is when it comes to views. Of course, there might be some worst videos that are, the content is bad, but the worst views that I got was when I visited the Family of Man exhibition in Luxembourg. I think it still has about 1,000 views, and it was one of the most the biggest experience to see those images. I remember actually crying in the video, because I was so emotional of watching those images. They were really seeing those prints, and I knew that it wasn't going to be, but I wanted to make that video still.
Yeah.
Anyways,
it's our struggle, right? The things that we want to make or we love making, people don't want to watch.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just so sad.
That is true. That is true. But yeah, like somebody was commenting that how do we like Terry Day was commenting, I don't know how you guys find new subject every week. I have to say it's not easy. To be honest, it's not that easy. But there's always something, and what I've done, I don't know how many of you have seen, but I've done these photo sessions because I can't use therapy. Robin has it. Photo walk, Matti has it. So I had to come up with, my own. So it's a photo session. I've been, picking up a lens or a camera and go out and try to shoot something and talk through those and add some music and stuff like that. You just have to try to do that. Because it's always, I know this is going a bit off topic, but it's always interesting thing in YouTube to watch the evolvement of channels. First, they start in general, and then when they get bigger, it's more about themselves. People are getting interested in the people, not the content itself. It's the performer who's interesting, and usually when I see people starting their channels, they start talking about themselves, and they're gonna fail because it's more interesting later when they start to know you. Then people get more interested in you. But okay, that was totally off topic. It's not a
no, it's not. YouTube. It's not. It's true, right? Because we are talking about how to grow a YouTube channel, our struggles as YouTubers, and we don't get to do what we do, so we have to consider what our audience want to see. But as we grow bigger, they want to see us for who we are, not just what we do. It's totally relevant.
They kind of your opinions are interesting. They want to hear yours. So if there is a new lens coming up, people want to see what Jimmy thinks about it, what Rob thinks about it, what you think, what I think. Because and that's also good. It's not also about the lens, but it's also about what Robin thinks about this. This is interesting because we all say a bit different things, and when you all watch all 4 videos, then you have the whole picture of
and when we are all different photographers, right? We all shoot different things. Yes. And I just want to share a little bit of funny information. So, because someone was talking about how do we find video topics every week, right? So sometimes I will sit in a cafe to tell myself, okay, it's a brainstorming session. I will write down all my ideas. I'll write down my draft, my script for the videos for the next coming weeks. I can spend 2 to 3 hours with all the ideas and nothing was finalized or nothing good or nothing useful came out from that session. A whole afternoon wasted, right? And then the same night when I went to sleep at about, let's say 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock, and I couldn't sleep, right? I was tossing and turning. At 2:30, the ideas start coming. And I had to get off my bed because the ideas were there. It was so good, right? So I have to get off my bed, turn on my computer and write it down. And then as I write down the key points, and then I start to form the script and the draft and everything. Then the next thing I know, it's already 4:30 in the morning. It's horrible, I tell you.
Yeah, but that's what creativity actually is. When you have the moment, you have to kind of act on it.
It's crazy.
And this was actually we were talking about with Jimmy Cheng. We have this Sunday Clubhouse thing in the afternoon. So if you're into Clubhouse, you might want to join us someday here next Sunday. That is the next one. It's 3 p.m. On London time, the Clubhouse. And we were talking about creativity and about being a professional photographer. And what's the hardest part is that clients calls you and wants you to be at their office photographing something at 3 o'clock on next Tuesday. That's the time you need to be creative. There's no choice. You just have to be creative on that particular time. And usually creativity is something that, like you said, you might sit, now I'm going to plan my videos. Nothing comes up. But then all of a sudden you wake up in the middle of the night, you're feeling creative. And that's fine when you're doing YouTube, because you nobody's kind of like, if you miss a video 1 week or 1 day, it's not a big deal in a way. Of course, it might be, but in general, it's not as big if you miss the being creative when you're photographing for a client. for example, because some
true.
of the stuff, let's say like for example, a wedding, you can't do that again. So you need to be really creative during that Saturday or whatever the day is. And that's the hardest part, because when you're a hobbyist, you can photograph whenever you feel like it.
True.
And that's what I really like about photography as a hobby. It's a creative hobby, and you can do when you're feeling creative. But as a professional, you kind of ruin that. You need to be creative when the client wants you to be creative. Of course, it depends on the genre you do, but most photographers do when you do assignments. Then it's the way. And if you do something else like stock photography, then it's a bit different thing. But in general, you need to be creative when the client wants you to be creative.
And sometimes like you do have the days where nothing works, everything just didn't come out right, and you still have to produce results and deliver to clients. Oh, that was just, it happens. Not always, but it does happen. Yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah, it is. It is. Let's see. About Henrik is asking about, I really wonder if OMDS know how much the two of you, Jimmy and Rob, do for the brand. You probably reach more customers than all their marketing. They should do market research on that. Well, I have to say that here in Finland, they do. They take good care of me. They are interested, and I've done some sponsored videos. And actually, after this stream is over, I will have a 1-hour Zoom lecture about wide-angle lenses, because there is this cashback on certain wide-angle zooms here in Europe, and we will have a 1-hour session, which is, I think, 30 Finnish photographers and Olympus users are attending, and we'll have a
nice.
It's kind of like a live stream on Zoom, but for certain people only that have
close group
applied.
Invite only.
Yeah, it's not invite only, but they want to keep it small so that everybody has a chance to answer the questions. Because on this live stream, there's a lot of comments, and I'm really sorry that we cannot answer every question on that. And that's but at least here, and I think because you've been a visionary, I think they've understood that also in Malaysia.
I think now the situation is a little bit different, but rewinding back. Let's say 1-2 years ago, when Olympus was still around, everything was okay. My position was a little bit different from others, because I came to Olympus as an employee. So I started out as a photographer who uses an Olympus as hobbies. I wasn't a professional photographer. I was an engineer back then. And then Olympus Malaysia poached me over to work for them. So I quit my engineering job. I worked for Olympus Malaysia for 4 years as a product specialist, right? So I had a very special relationship with Olympus, because I get to meet the R&D team. I get to meet the sales and marketing team. I work with the people in Japan. I go to Japan multiple times a year. We have meetings. I have trainings. And through those trainings, I know the inside out of the Olympus OMD cameras, certain things about the cameras that a lot of people don't know. And I know some tips and tricks about the cameras that I can share, like how the 5-axis IS works, or like how the what you call it, the high-res 50 megapixel the handheld shot works, all these things, the mechanics. I was told directly from the R&D. So my relationship with Olympus is very, very different. And when I left Olympus, because I wanted to pursue a career as a photographer, I still kept in a very good relationship with Olympus Malaysia and Olympus Japan. They have always treated me with respect. They have treated me very, very well. And they invited me back as an Olympus visionary. So that shows how much they do care about me as a photographer. Back then, the Olympus Corporation. And recently, I understand that my contract at that time ended in December last year, and then there was a gap where I was not an ambassador. Nothing went wrong, right? As a new company, I would think that OM Digital Solutions, they have a lot more important things to do. They have to take care of manufacturing. They have to make sure that the cameras and lenses continue to sell worldwide, right? And then it's not just in Japan, but every other countries. They have to make sure that the transfer of staff, they have to make sure that the local operations are okay, the relationship with the retailers are taken care of, the sales and marketing. There's so many things to do. And because Olympus Malaysia shut down, it's not just JIP taking over the Olympus Corporation's imaging business that's in Japan, but in Malaysia, Olympus Malaysia exited the business. There's no longer an OM Digital Solutions or Olympus in Malaysia. So now Olympus brand is under a distributor in Malaysia. So it's very different. So this responsibility falls under the distributor, and the distributor has contacted me and asked me to come back as a visionary. So in a way, yes, Olympus, or currently the OM Digital Solutions, GIP, they are taking care of us, the visionaries, and we are very proud to be still here doing what we love to do and share as much as we can with everyone. So yeah, we'll continue to do the best that we can. I'm sure Peter will say the same.
Yeah, exactly. My words. There's one question. We were talking about the history of photography, and I want to point out one thing, one channel. A channel called The Photographic Eye is actually quite new channel, which has been growing. It has, I think I was watching a couple of videos, and he had a video like 2 weeks ago that first 500 subscribers. Now it's over 10,000 in few days.
Nice. Wow.
And yeah, very nice. And it is The Photographic Eye is something that you should check out from YouTube. There are a lot of different photographers, and now his newest video is about Mercury Visions episode 1, meet the undiscovered trailblazers of photography. So he's talking about, I think it's all the way back to Louis Daguerre and all those guys who started the whole thing. But if you're still here, Miss Diamar, check out The Photographic Eye channel. And let's see. All right, this is a good about topics, and this is actually something that we could discuss here a bit. I have maybe a topic for you: maintenance of body and lenses, how to take care of your love pieces of technique, what to do, what is better to avoid. Do you have any
sure
comments about this? This is an interesting topic.
I have a dry box. Fun fact, remember Amir? I'm not sure if Amir is still here. Just now he asked about the photography project and passion projects that we do. So that same photographer that I shoot with, he actually gave me my dry box. I'm using his dry box where I store all my cameras and lenses to make sure that the humidity is in control. I think in different countries it's different, but in Malaysia or tropical countries, we are so humid here. If you don't have a dry box to control the humidity, things will grow inside your lenses. No kidding, they will grow very fast. So you do need a dry box to make sure that it's dry. When it's dry enough, fungus or foreign, I don't know what plant or whatever will not grow inside your lens. Because once it grows, it's very hard for certain lenses. You can't even take it out. Even when they dismantle the lens and take out the glass, some of them grow inside the glass that you can't even clean it anymore. So it's a serious problem, right? So first thing is my advice, if you are in a tropical country, get a dry box. Secondly, if you don't have a dry box, if you move the camera and lens every day, if you take it out and shoot, if you're a professional photographer, if you shoot, if your job's like 3 to 4 times a week, keep moving about, the lens and cameras are keep moving, then it's fine. You don't need a dry box. But if your camera is sitting there for 1 month, trust me, after 2 to 3 months, something will grow in the cameras. That's the first thing, get a dry box. Secondly, I would say that sensor cleaning, send back to Olympus Service Center to clean the sensor, or they'll actually provide full camera and lenses professional cleaning. And they will clean out like every crease, every gap. They'll strip out all the dust, the grease, everything. They'll actually do professional cleaning for you. I'm not sure if they do it free now. Previously, when Olympus was still Olympus, when they have events like workshops, during the workshop, they actually clean the camera for you. So you arrive at the workshop, you give your cameras and lenses to them. They'll clean it. But during the workshop, they'll pass it back to you. Right, so I will definitely recommend you to get the professionals to do it. Why not, right? And that time they actually do it for free in Malaysia. Yeah, so that's all that I can probably give my advice on. Get a dry box and get it professionally clean.
Yeah, well, you have the problem of heat and humidity. We have the other problem, cold and dark. So actually, if you're using your camera in really harsh conditions, really cold weather, it can hold up very well. The camera doesn't suffer at all. The only thing that might suffer is the battery drains quite a bit.
Yeah,
then you can change the battery. But the funny thing is about batteries, you stick it in your pocket, and when it's warm, the juice is back. I'm not an
Magic.
electrician, so I don't know how that works, but it works. And then when you come inside, then there is the problem. If you just bring your camera indoors when it's really cold out there, and then you put it, let's say, to a table, it will be all wet because the
condensation.
When it can kind of start warming up, it will be totally wet, and that might be a problem if your body is not really fully weather sealed. The problem can be solved so that you put your camera in a camera bag, and don't take the camera out from the camera bag, but let it warm slowly inside the bag with the air. Then it's no problem. So that's
you need to remind me when I go to Finland.
Oh yes, yeah. When you come to Finland, you need to come in, December or January when it's the worst.
I'll try.
Yeah, and I'll promise to be your cameraman when you are doing street photography, shadow therapy in a blizzard.
There will be something. There will be my new profile photo.
Yeah, but otherwise, when taking care of your cameras, of course, wiping the dust away a bit in meantime. But like Robin said, that when sometimes it is a good thing to send it back to a repair or maintenance. Actually, it's not repair, but just that they would clean it up. And I had one of my cameras just tested the service, and when it came back, I honestly thought that they have sent me a new camera. It was a big disappointment when I checked out the number. It's not new; it's the same one because it was so clean that it looked like a new camera.
Yes.
They even said it in a box. I was like, "Hey, I've got a new camera." Oh no, it wasn't.
It
was so good. Yeah. And then, of course, have the lens caps on when you're using them, and avoid, touching the front element, all that normal
and lens
stuff.
Hood, right? Lens hood.
No, the lens cap. And yes, I have the lens hood on all the time, so that will protect your front element. But otherwise, those Olympus cameras are quite rugged. You can not beat them up, but you don't have to be too worried. Of course, the lens is the biggest part, and don't drop them, of course, and stuff like that. But I've had them in pretty bad weather, really cold and snow blizzard, and no problem. I was the one that was failing, not the camera.
Oh, my cameras and lenses have been in rain recently. I don't know if you've seen my video. Recently, a lot of my videos, I was filming halfway there, it was just thunderstorm. It's crazy, and by the time I get to the camera, it's fully wet.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, but actually, like we talk about the weather sealing stuff, I tend to say it quite a bit. But I think it's a very important, especially if you're doing wildlife and professionally, because you just have to be able to photograph no matter what the weather is. So that's the biggest thing. I can't say that, hey, sorry, I can't come up because it's raining. My cameras won't do that. Your business won't be alive.
Yeah, even in Malaysia, right? When we do events, outdoor events, let's say that we are covering a press conference or something that happens outdoor, we can't just say, "Oh, sorry, it's raining, I'm not shooting." The client wants photographs, you have to shoot. Yeah, so having a weather sealed camera, it really helps.
Oh yes, it does. Yeah, that's true. About the history of photography, the early videos from The Art of Photography by Ted Forbes used to have a lot of good videos about the history of photography, but he's doing more of reviews now, I think. To be honest, I haven't really watched his channel for a while. Okay, this is an interesting question from Victor Skorban. What kind of photography do you like to do right now? I understand that from time to time the passion is changed. For example, Rob Trek started to make astrophotography. Do you have any new passion, or you just want to pick up where you left off about a year ago?
I think for those who are not familiar with what I do, for passion-wise, hobby-wise, I do street photography. The street photography includes urbanscape, things that I shoot in the city. Street photography also includes street portraits, where strangers, people that I found, I go up to them, I take photographs, close-up portraits of people on the street. That's ongoing. I don't think my interest will fade. I think there will be a very long term. I see myself doing it for the next 10, 20, 30 years. As long as I can hold a camera and go out on the street and walk, I'll take street photographs. Macro photography is something that I really like doing. I like to go close to spiders, bugs, insects, and take more photographs. It is something that I've done less and less recently because parks are closed. Even the ones that are open, we don't get interesting insects or bugs there. The ones that have those really, really interesting creatures, they're still closed, and the walkways are very narrow, and then normally there are hiking trails. People actually go up and walk up the hill, so I don't want to contribute to the crowd now that we need social distancing and the pandemic and everything. So but I still want to do some macro photography. That is something that I really love. I'm very fascinated with those tiny little things, and sometimes they have very interesting stories, very, very interesting stories if you read up on the behavior of these creatures and how they survive in the environment. It makes you feel, I think the part where it attracted me to this doing macro, insect macro, is that it makes you feel like a National Geographic photographer without going, to Antarctica or Africa. This shooting those tiny insects does have that National Geographic feel. I think that's it. Other than that, I don't have any other grander things to do. I love shooting music, which I can't do now. I have a lot of performer friends, singer-songwriters who perform on stage, but currently we don't have a lot of live events going on because of the pandemic. I love to shoot music or theater, something that, recently is starting to pick up again. I'm shooting something this weekend, so that will come out in my videos maybe in the next few weeks. But other than that, I don't think I'm picking up anything new. I'm not interested in wildlife photography. I'm sorry. I love wildlife photography. I enjoy looking at it, but I don't see myself waiting for 5 hours just to wait for that bird to appear. That's not me, right? Maybe I'll do more portrait photography. I think conceptual portraits. I like shooting people. I like interacting with people. Maybe that will be something that I want to pick up as well. I don't really see myself doing landscape as well. It rains all the time in Malaysia. It's so frustrating. You wake up at 5 in the morning and it just rains, right? You arrive in location, it rains. It happens like 5 times consecutively. It just breaks your spirit. I have no luck with the weather. And astrophotography, my goodness, there was once 3 o'clock. Me and my friends drove 2 hours out of Kuala Lumpur, arrived at the place, and it was covered in clouds. I'm like, and the whole day is ruined because you come home with no shots, you're tired, you can't sleep, and the next day you have to work. That time I was still working. It was terrible. So yeah, I'm a very impatient photographer. I go out, I need results. So maybe we'll see. I don't know. Maybe 1 year later I will pick up something new or do something else. We'll see. Photography is. This is the cool thing about photography, right? You never run out of things to explore. There's so much to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly true. And I think that's one of the best parts of photography. And for me, I think what I started doing, and it was because of the YouTube videos that I made, was actually bird photography. And I'm not something that I've never done before, but I started doing, and I've last year, I think it was January before everything went bizarre, I was visiting Jari Peltomäki up in the north, and was spent a couple of days with him, and he's a Olympus visionary and a bird photographer and a wildlife photographer. And since then I've done some bird photography. It's been something different. It's interesting. And talking about astrophotography that Rob Trek has started, he has actually very interesting live stream that he had about a month ago with Ben Chappell.
Nice.
Who is actually a astrophotographer and uses Olympus gear for that. So you might want to check out Rob Trek's live stream about astrophotography with the Ben Chappell. And I think Ben Chappell also has a channel of his own where he talks about doing astrophotography with Olympus cameras. I think he uses the M1 Mark II, if I remember correctly, or did he get even the Mark III? Not sure if I remember correctly. But that's interesting. If that's something that you are interested in, I think you should check out that live stream and Ben Chappell's channel.
Awesome.
Let's see what else about. There was one question about video about photo editing workflow. And love to watch the lower light edition wedding shot edit from Olympus RAW. Please, that'd be interesting. Unfortunately, I don't do weddings anymore. I used to photograph them Then when I had a studio here in Helsinki, and I used to spend all my summer Saturdays photographing weddings, because in Finland everybody gets married during the summer, because that's
true.
When you have light
it's warm,
and warm.
Right? Yeah.
Nobody. Well, now it's a bit different. If you don't have a big wedding, then you will go get married anytime. But if you want to have a bit bigger wedding, then it's summer. So it's a busy time for.
I started out doing a lot of weddings. I remember there was a year, at the time I was still working as an engineer. I have a wedding every single weekend for, I think, from September to January. I have so many jobs, and it was so tiring doing weddings. But as the years go by, and then I joined Olympus. Obviously, it's a full-time job. I also did less weddings because my weekends I need to dedicate for consumer events, workshops, photo walks with Olympus.
Of course.
Right? And after I quit Olympus, I told myself to not pursue wedding photography aggressively. Because I've done so many wedding jobs the years before, I have a lot of clients who recommend me to the future brides and grooms. And I get I still get people coming in asking me about wedding jobs. So I tell myself that after I come out as a full-time photographer, when the job comes, I will take, because I was starting out as a photographer, I will take everything. But I also told myself not to pursue myself, not to push myself to the direction of a wedding photographer, because I want to do something that is not so draining. Doing a wedding photography, it sucks everything out of you. In Malaysia, it starts at 5 in the morning, 5 before the sunrise, the makeup at the bride's house, and it goes all the way to midnight. And sometimes on the same day, not sometimes, all the time, on the same day, in the afternoon, there is like a few hours break. You have to quickly edit the photos and create a video slideshow to be shown during dinner reception. So it's a full day thing. And imagine every Saturday and Sunday you do this it's not something that I see myself doing for the rest of my life. It's good money. I enjoy doing wedding photography. I love shooting happy moments. But I also quickly realized that if I keep doing this, I'll have health problems. My back's going to hurt. I have actual friends, professional wedding photographers, who actually had slipped disc, or they broke their back carrying all the heavy cameras, and they can't even hold the camera and do a job anymore. True story. I have 3 or 4 friends, wedding photographers. I don't want to end up like them. So I told myself to break away from wedding photography. And for the past few years, I've done so little weddings. And last year, I have 0 wedding because, the pandemic, right? When the pandemic comes, no one gets married, and I don't get any jobs from weddings. So I don't have any wedding jobs for the past 1 year. The last wedding I did was 2 years ago, I remember. It's about sharing on doing low-light photography in wedding. Now, here is the thing. There are very few moments that I have to actually really do low light, because in most cases, we bring in our light, LED light or flash. And I use flash a lot, wireless flash, on-camera flash, bounce flash, huge diffusers. We use flash whenever we can to create the best light possible. And there are moments where we don't use flash, but we have f1.2 lenses. I use 45 f1.2, Olympus 75 f1.8. I also use Olympus 25 f1.2. Even before the f1.2 lenses, we have the 17 f1.8, 25 f1.8, 45 f1.8. And with Olympus cameras, I rarely had to go above ISO 1600. And I have to go ISO 3200. Somehow I'll figure out a way to use flash, because we want to give the best possible result to our clients. So during wedding situations, I haven't found a situation where I have no choice but to use super high ISO. So I don't think I'm the best person to create this content. Maybe you can try asking Emily from Micro Four Nerds. She does a lot of weddings in the UK. She does more church weddings.
That's true.
The church weddings will need, I think some churches don't even allow use of flash. I use flash in my churches here, so I don't care. And the priests or the pastors, they allow me to use flash, right? So no problem with that. But I think she has situations where she can't use. Or Jimmy Chang, Red 35, he does a lot of weddings as well. And I think he deals with a lot worse situation than I have. So maybe go and check out with Jimmy and Emily. Probably they'll be able to make better content. Yeah,
that's true. Then quickly back to the Astrophotography. Yeah, the Ben Chappell that I mentioned that was in Rob Treck's live is the channel name is the Narrowband channel. So you might find that if you're interested in and thanks Annette Johnson also mentioned that. And yeah, this is I need to. Now I'm back. Sorry about that. Everything related to weddings is dangerous. Well, it's the bridezillas usually that are dangerous, not the weddings itself. That was there were a lot of things that you have to. Most
to
of
be
them
fair,
totally nice.
I know that I made the joke about bridezilla in my wedding photography video, but to be fair, I have not met one. To be very fair, all the brides have been very respectful. They are very nice to me, and I think I'm lucky. I have very, very good clients. I haven't had, but I have heard stories. My friends have had. I've heard so many bridezilla stories that I'm so scared. But I haven't met one. So just to be clear, yeah,
that is true. Let's see. Do we have?
Hey, Ananda is here. Ananda is also Mati's friend. Mati knows Ananda as well.
Oh yeah,
Ananda is in Australia, Melbourne.
Welcome, Ananda. Nice to see you here.
Ananda, the shop at Chowkit with your name on it, the barber shop, Ananda is still there. There's a shop in Kuala Lumpur where the sign is Ananda. Yeah, it's still there. I just checked last week.
Oh, cool.
Just letting him know.
Let's see, what else do we have? It's great. Actually, I did not mention, but we've had over 200 viewers at the peak. So that's a huge amount. Now we're almost there. Let's see if we can get back to it. But as I said, in 1 hour I do have the Zoom Zoom teaching about wide-angle lenses here in Finland. It's organized by OMDS North, which is kind of
nice.
I think one branch, which is I think the Northern Europe, used to be Nordic. Not really sure about the organization, but that's the organizer anyways. And let's see if we do have. I still have some time because everything is ready. I just have to pull some plugs and put on different USBs to a different place when I start that. So no problem. We can still be if we have some more questions. Let's go back a bit. I might have missed something interesting here.
Cat the kitty asked, is there anything that you've learned from each other? I have learned a lot from Peter, actually. I think you all know that Peter has been doing YouTube a lot longer than I have. I come on to this YouTube platform quite recently, I think like 1.5 years ago. And at that time, I have no reference. Actually, it was Mati who pushed me onto this YouTube thing. And then Mati was talking about Peter all the time.
Friends, because right? It was me that was pushing Matti to the YouTube channel. It was the time when he actually made his first video on his channel in Malaysia.
Yes.
He was I think he was there, and when he was traveling around the world, I think 2018 I think it was, and he made his first video in Malaysia about a month before he actually the trip was over. I think it was something like that.
Yeah, then he pushed me to do YouTube, so I don't have a lot of reference. And then, as you all know, there are not many Micro Four Thirds or Olympus YouTubers out there. So naturally, I gravitate towards Peter, and just by looking at the way he presents or how he arranged his YouTube video, how he plans his shoot, that's all the things that you see on my channel. A lot of them came from Peter. So, a lot of you may not realize but Peter is a huge inspiration for me to do what I do on my YouTube channel. So I hope that answers your question, Cat the kitty.
I think that, excuse me. Yeah, I think that we all inspire each other, all the Micro Four Third YouTubers. And I think what I've learned from Robin is the kind of the positive attitude that he always has. He's fun to watch in his videos because when I watch my older videos, I'm the monotone, very serious because photography is very serious business for me, and I've learned to smile more in my videos. That's because it's a lot better, to be honest. And of course, some topics and ideas when I watch other videos. Especially Robin has a lot of good stuff and picked up some things and figure out, hey, he does that with that. I can do that feature, but I do this stuff. So kind of like inspiration. And of course, I watch his Shutter Therapy Instagram account. Really interesting to see to get inspired by about the photographs too. It's not all about the YouTube. It's also about the photography.
Yeah, true.
I get inspired. And what I like about watching, like we talked earlier about inspiration, is that to see that how different the aesthetics is, and like what we think in the north here when it's dark and winter, and we take a lot more let's say, I wouldn't say depressing images, but it's a different way to I like to do a lot of a moody black and whites, and sometimes it's just because of when you have dark all the time around you, all the lights are artificial. You don't see the daylight. Well, in Helsinki you can, but it's like 4 hours in the worst time. You only have daylights if there is no clouds. Usually there are. So there is no sun for many months, and that of course it affects your way of seeing. And then you see all these colorful images from the south and from Asia, and it is inspiring, really.
Sometimes too much color, right? Too much color.
Think there isn't too much color in the world. I don't think so. Even though sometimes doing monochrome and black and white is a good thing. It depends.
Like you were mentioning about how it was dark and moody. You know what I was thinking? I was like, wow, there's so much snow. Like, I want snow. You don't. It's how different we are. Like, I understand it's cold. It can get really miserable. But for me, it's like we don't have any of that here. So it's nice.
Snow is okay when it's, you have free time. You can go out and play in the sun. You can ski and stuff like that. But when you have to do it every day, the traffic jams that causes when it's very slippery and a lot of snow, and then all these big snowplows driving around, and then it melts and freezes again. It's slippery, and it's actually it's not fun. I would rather have the snow, a bit north of Helsinki, so I can go out there and watch the snow. I don't like to see it in my when I look at the window.
Sure. I understand.
Yeah. But the good thing about snow is that it reflects light. It makes
nice.
That's the good thing. When it's a bit snow, then it's nice.
It's nice. Yeah, one day I'll be there. One day.
Yeah,
we'll make video together.
But you have to come to Finland during the winter, because then it's going to be totally different.
I will.
Then it's going to be totally
make it
different.
Happen.
Yeah, you will. Hope so. Let's see. What else do we have here?
Cotscom asked, do any of you shoot sports or have tried shooting sports? I actually enjoy shooting sports. I think the problem is access, because I'm not a sports photographer unless I'm being paid or being asked to shoot. There's no point shooting it if you're sitting like 100 rows behind the ring or the court, right? You're just too far. Even if you have 150 to 400, everything is just going to appear so tiny. Being a good sports photographer or being a great photographer also means that you need to have the right place to shoot from. Where you're shooting from, where you're standing is very important. So access is very important. So not having access also prevents you from doing your best or getting the best shots. So I think if I want to do sports photography, it will be something that I will enjoy doing. It is something that I do consider pursuing. But thankfully I didn't, because now that during the pandemic, sports is also not really something that is happening all over, But I do see myself doing sports photography if given the opportunity.
I used to shoot sports quite a bit.
Nice.
10, 15 years ago, when I was using a different band cameras, which is known for the color that I have. And I used to, but then I was doing more and more of studio work, and then I switched to Olympus, and I kind of lost the whole thing. And to be honest, when I had the EM1, that wasn't suitable for sports. To be honest, it wasn't good enough for that. Nowadays, you have the EM1X or the EM1 Mark III, and even the EM1 Mark II could be totally fine for sports. And that is actually something that I might try at least, because had an idea to have a video about sports photography with Olympus, and maybe summertime to do some soccer and football and finish baseball and whatever. See, and then maybe indoor photography, indoor sports photography could be another topic next winter. Hopefully, the things get better. There are they are doing sports here in Finland, but no spectators, so they are playing in the empty stadiums. But that's something that I might do for a video. But there is always the problem to get into those arenas as a photographer.
Right? Access. Yeah.
That's of course you have to be accredited or whatever that word is, and I'm not in that, but it's just might be just to ask and call them. Usually what happens is that they want some photographs for that for free. That maybe I could do for some small clubs. Of course, I could go out there. There's a football soccer field about 2-minute walk from where I live. I could go out there and photograph some, but it's not. It's a bit different. It's not that when you don't have the stadium and all the atmosphere and the backgrounds. It's just an open soccer field. It's quite hard to do. But maybe I will go and try that. That'd be interesting to do. I know there is one British photographer who has been using Olympus for sports cars.
Oh wow!
But to be honest, he's done really astonishing job, and unfortunately, I don't remember his name right now. But I think if you go to Olympus Europe website, you can find him among the visionaries. Just
nice.
Because I think he's a visionary, and I think the old visionary pages are still online, so you might want to try that. It's really, really interesting. Okay, there is actually Robert Clays, and I moved from Canon to Olympus and mainly shoot motorsports. The kit really works well. I'm not sure if I'm talking about him. Maybe it was. Sorry that I don't remember the name of the guy.
And the EM1X has the motorsports tracking mode, right? You can track the subject.
It's actually, and it tracks motorcycle helmets pretty well too.
So well, yes.
Yes. Oh, okay. It's no, sorry, not this one. It's
Mike
Inkley is the chap, I think, for motorsports. Yeah, it could be. Sorry, I don't remember the name, but you might want to Google him and see if that's the guy.
So Cat the Kitty asked if we're considered doing journalistic or documentary photography. Street photography as a form is somewhat documentary as well. You are documenting that specific moment in time in that location. It's a slice of reality that you take out and put into the photograph. It is not considered documentary per se. It's not strictly documentary, because documentary should be telling a specific story. You should be telling your reporting, or like journalism. It's not really that. I think street photography is a more free form. It's not so strict, like you must be 100% untouched, or you cannot go and change things. But I think in a way, street photography generally is a form or a subcategory of documentary in general. I don't see myself as a documentary photographer because I don't want to give myself like a forced assignment, like, I must complete this project and this is a documentary. It must have like a story to. I don't really have a voice, or I don't have that drive to tell something. I don't want to like, I want to talk about feminism. I want to talk about discrimination. I want to talk about racism. I don't have that desire to voice out or to fight against all these things. I just want to enjoy photography. So street photography in a way is more like a free-form documentary where I do document certain things, but they may not be something that can be used to tell a strong story. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that sums up also my ideas of or thoughts about being a documentarist. Of course, everything that you photograph is a document of something. So in that sense, I think every photograph. But as you said about the making a big story or making a point or affecting something or change the world in a way, I think that's not really me. But
it's not me.
The only thing that I've been kind of documenting are the masks that people have been throwing on the
Oh yeah,
on the ground and not putting into the. And I think that's some photographs of the time that has happened. And also I've documented Helsinki when it's totally empty almost. It's not a busy city in sense of other big cities. It's quite quiet city, but still it's never empty. And now it has been sometimes. You don't see anybody. So that's another something that I've documented, but it's not in a a big story or a something that I would print in a book or something like that. It's just something to remember. So in that sense, I haven't done that, but it's probably the only thing that I haven't done in photography is journalism, because every other genre I've probably done in some point of my career. So that's the only thing I haven't done. Unless the sports stuff that I did, it was for a magazine, so that could be considered journalism. But it wasn't, digging out big stories. It was about reporting what happened in the game in form of photographs. So could be. Yeah, some others are also saying that it was Mike Inkley about the.
Yep.
So thank you everybody for doing that. And we still have 183 people online. This is huge crowd. And I think we'll still be tops 10, 15 minutes because I'm sorry that I have the other assignment for today in the afternoon here in Finland. So, yeah, this one it was Terry Day about what about urban architecture, especially with Olympus and camera correction features. And I think this was about the topics.
I do a lot of urban architecture. I consider it as a subcategory of street photography. So street photography means you're shooting anything on the street. People, buildings, cars, roads, signs, anything, right? So since I'm in an urban environment in the city, Kuala Lumpur is a metropolitan area, urban landscape is, you just can't run away from it. And I appreciate buildings, shapes of buildings, geometry, the steel structures, the glass, the concrete. I take wide-angle shots. I use long lens to zoom to certain parts of the building to emphasize certain patterns or shapes, or even reflections, and take different photos different time of the day, sunrise, sunset, or during noon with the harsh light. I think urban landscape, if you look at the way I show my photographs, whenever I test a camera on the lens, there will always be a few urban landscapes, either the Kuala Lumpur, some of the landmarks like the Twin Towers, or even just a high overlooking panorama of the city, the view of all the buildings during sunset, or even during the nighttime to test the low light or the image stabilization. Urban landscape, I think, it's my playground. I have so many shots with urban landscape. Yeah.
You do you still see is it called the Petronas Towers?
Yes.
Or whatever. You can see them from your balcony still, or are they?
I still can see a little bit of it, but I think soon it'll be blocked by newer buildings in between.
Yeah, I remember that you said in some video that there is going to be a building that
things coming up.
Yeah,
sad, very sad.
It is. Yeah, it is. It is very sad. Let's see, what else do we have? We still have time for a couple of more questions,
sure.
And then we have to wrap this thing up.
We'll hit a few more. No worries.
Let's see.
Jeff was asking the comparison between 300 Pro and 150 to 400 Pro. Again, Jeff, I've mentioned earlier, in case you missed it, I have not seen or used the 150 to 400 Pro lens, so I cannot comment. I'm sure it's an amazing lens. I'm sure it's incredibly sharp, but because I have not had one in my hands before, I cannot give any meaningful comment. So very, very sorry about that. But Peter can answer that, I think.
Yes, I haven't tested them side by side, but I have used both of these lenses, and the 150 to 400 millimeter I had for 2 hours. And there is a video call, I think it's called Hands On with that lens on my channel. So you might want to see that to get an idea how it is. And then there was one video from Matt Suez Olympus educator from Montana. He used it for a couple of days, and he took it to some nature reserves in Montana, did some wildlife with that lens, and I think he has more experience on that lens, so you might want to check out his channel. But to say that if the 150 to 400 is the best lens I've ever used, and it is very expensive, and I would love to have it, but I cannot justify to spend 7,000 euros just because I want it. I actually should need it, and I don't. But 300 is also a very good option, and it is a very good quality lens, and it has also the image stabilizer and everything, and it is compatible with both of the extenders, and like the 100 and 400, which is also something to consider. It's not a bad lens. It's okay. It's not as fast, and so if you do a lot of early morning bird photography, then it might not be the one. But if you have good light conditions, and then it might be also a good option, because that's also a very good lens. Nothing wrong with the image quality. Okay, the AF isn't as fast, so if you have really fast moving birds, then it might be a bit harder to use. But both lenses, if you do, are totally fine. What comes to image quality, I wouldn't be worried about that. Okay, then let's make one more question, and this is going to be the last question for this live stream today. Could you comment on environmental portraiture, experiences, technique, lenses, etc.? Okay. I think you can Robin, start this one. You know this.
I think it depends on how you define environmental portraiture. So when I talk about environmental portrait, when I do environmental portrait, for me personally, it means that I'm shooting that one person's portrait together with a background, a part of the background that I fit into my composition. When I do close-up portrait or just straight-on portrait, I throw the background away. So I'll use like 45 or 75 f1.8. I just blur the background, or I choose a plain background where it's just a white wall or a plain, there's nothing in the background to emphasize the person. But when I talk about environmental portrait, it means that the person and the environment. Or for example, say that a person is cooking fried noodles. This may be a bit hard for you guys to imagine because you're not in Malaysia. Let me try to think of a better example. A carpenter, for example, someone fixing shoes on the street, right? So instead of just taking a photograph of that person fixing the shoes, a close-up of the person doing whatever he's doing, you also show what's behind him, the rack of shoes. You also show his customer sitting and waiting for him to fix the shoe. Show the customer himself and the shoes, his work behind him, right? So the environment itself is used to reinforce the story of the portrait that you are telling. That to me is environmental portrait. Experience-wise, I do a lot of environmental portraits besides close-up portrait because it's a way to tell a story. You add a context to the portrait, you add the location, you add the meaning, you add the concept and idea to the portrait itself. It's not just one person with nothing else, no relationship with his environment. So I think that it's a very powerful way to do a portrait. It's a very powerful way to tell a story. Sorry, Peter, can you put it back up again?
Sorry.
Experiences. Sorry. What was the other two things? Sorry. Techniques and lenses. I think technique-wise, it's very hard to say. There are so many different techniques. You can go close, you can go far, depends on how much you want to fit. You can talk to the person, ask permission first, warm up so that you can go closer. Or if you don't want the person to know that you're there, you can sneak the shot so that it's totally untouched, like a pure documentary candid shot. It can work for certain things. Like if a person is cooking noodles, you don't want the person to cook the noodles and look at you. It will be so wrong. So if the person is cooking the noodles, you want the person to just concentrate cooking the noodles and looking at the noodles so that it's not burned, right? So, there are so many different considerations. So technique-wise, I don't think there's anything specific. But lenses, I like to use the Olympus 25, either the f1.8 or f1.2. To me, that is wide angle. But if you ask other photographers, most of them will go wide angle, like say Olympus 12 f2, or the 17 f1.8 or f1.2, the classic 35mm documentary lens. Usually that's what people like to use for environmental portrait. But for me, I like to use the Olympus 25, which is equivalent to the classic 50mm, because I like my straight lines to be perfectly straight. I like everything to appear proportionate. I don't like perspective distortion, and I like to step back a little bit to give that working distance so that the person will not feel too intimidated. If you realize I'm not a very small person, I realize sometimes because of my size, I may appear a little bit intimidating to some people. So having that working distance is why I like to use a 25 or 45mm Olympus lens, so that I don't have to be too close to a person. But that's my preference. A lot of photographers love the 35mm equivalent, so the Olympus 17 will work wonderful, or the 12mm f2. Or you don't even need to use prime lens, Olympus 14-42 or the 12-40 f2.8 Pro, or even the 12-45 f4 Pro. These will be fantastic lenses to use for environmental portrait. Important thing is not the lens. Important thing is the portrait, what the person is doing, and how the environment is supporting the story. If the environment is not helping the story, the environment will make the photo worse and it will not work. So think about whether you want to include or not. That's a more important question to ask. I hope that helps.
Yeah, I think that you started with the connection of the environment to the person, to the story. I think that's, and you also ended your answer with that. I think that you nailed the most important thing. If the environment has nothing to do with the person, then I would just throw it out and make a closer portrait, which is also one way of doing. But since I do have some more things with OMDS and Olympus today, I want to end this with this comment from Cat the Kitty, who has been asking a lot of questions. Who needs a house when you can have lenses? I think it's a good time to end this. Yes, and I want to thank Robin for being here, and always your kind of like a good spirit makes me feel good, and I hope the audience is also, or the viewers is also agreeing, and I think they will, and I think they are. And we will do this some other time again in the near future, sometime during the summer, if not earlier.
Yes.
And I really want to thank you. It was a great almost 2.5 hours. And thanks everybody for commenting and very good questions. It was nice to talk about photography also, and not only about cameras, because that's the main thing.
Yes.
Thank
you so much for having me, Peter. I have had a lot of fun.
My pleasure.
Sharing as much as I can. I hope everyone had as much fun as we did. For those of you who have not, please subscribe to Peter's amazing YouTube channel. Please share and comment, and please buy Peter a cup of coffee. I think he deserves one after creating all these live streams, and bringing me up, and with all the amazing content that he's putting up on his YouTube channel. And if you haven't, please explore his YouTube channel and like every one of his videos. Please do that.
And after you have done that, go to Robin's channel and do the same. All right, thank you so much. Now I'm gonna press the end broadcast button. Here we go.